Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UEC Defiance, watching the stars through the large front window. His ship was new, built with the best technology humans could make. The hull was strong metal, painted white with blue stripes. Inside, everything was clean and ready for battle. Jake was 35 years old, with short brown hair and green eyes. He had been in space for 10 years, but this was his first time commanding such an important ship. The Defiance was special. It had new fusion engines that could go very fast. It also had weapons that other alien races had never seen before. The war had been going on for 3 years now. The enemy was called the Vorthic Empire. They were scary creatures that looked like a mix of machines and living things. Their ships could heal themselves when damaged. They ate planets and turned everything into more ships. Every month, they took over more star systems. The Galactic Coalition was losing badly. The Coalition was made up of many different alien races. The Altarians looked like tall blue people with 4 arms. They were very smart and liked to plan everything. The Zephyrians were made of living crystal and could think very fast. There were also the Corvin, who looked like big cats that walked on 2 legs. All these races had been fighting in space for thousands of years. They knew how to build good ships and fight proper battles. But the Vorthic were different. They did not follow the normal rules of war. Their ships grew and changed during fights. When the Coalition shot them, they just got stronger. Humans were the newest members of the Coalition. Most aliens thought humans were weak and primitive. They had only been in space for about 50 years. Their technology was simple compared to alien science. Many Coalition leaders did not want human ships in their fleets. Jake walked around his bridge, looking at his crew. There were 200 people on the Defiance. All of them were human. Chief Engineer Ryan Cole was working at his station. He was a big man with red hair and strong hands. Ryan could fix anything and make engines work better than anyone expected. At the weapons station sat Amy Watson. She was 28 years old, with black hair tied back in a ponytail. Amy had studied every type of space weapon ever made. She could hit targets that other people could not even see. Her fingers moved fast over the controls as she ran practice drills. Dr. Kevin Hayes sat at the computer station. He was quiet and wore thick glasses. Kevin had built the ship's artificial intelligence system. The AI could think almost like a human, but much faster. It could learn new things and solve problems in creative ways. The ship's communication system made a beeping sound. A message was coming in from Coalition High Command. Jake pressed a button, and Admiral Lisa Park appeared on the main screen. She was an older woman with gray hair and a serious face. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Park said, "we have a problem. Our scouts have found a huge Vorthic fleet moving toward New Centauri. This is the Coalition's capital world. If it falls, we lose the war." Jake felt his stomach drop. New Centauri was home to billions of people from many different races. It was also where the Coalition government was located. If the Vorthic took it, they would control everything. "How big is their fleet?" Jake asked. "More than 2,000 ships," the Admiral said. "We are gathering every vessel we can find. Your ship needs to join the defense fleet immediately." Jake nodded. "We will be there, Admiral. The Defiance is ready to fight." Admiral Park looked worried. "Captain, I must be honest with you. Many of the alien commanders do not want human ships in this battle. They think you will get in the way or make mistakes. But we need every ship we can get." After the message ended, Jake called his senior officers to a meeting. They gathered in the small conference room next to the bridge. Ryan, Amy, and Kevin sat around the metal table. They all looked nervous. "You heard the Admiral," Jake said. "This might be the most important battle in galactic history. The Vorthic want to end." The war by taking our capital. Amy spoke first. Our weapons are good, but we have never fought the Vorthik before. We do not know how they will react to human technology. Ryan nodded. Our engines are faster than most alien ships. Maybe we can use that somehow, but their bioships heal themselves. Our normal weapons might not work very well. Kevin pushed, his glasses up his nose. I have been studying Vorthik battle records. They adapt to enemy tactics very quickly. What works once usually does not work twice. We need to think of something they have never seen before. Jake looked at each of his officers. These were good people. They were brave and smart, but they were about to face an enemy that had destroyed hundreds of worlds. We are humans, Jake said. We do not fight like the other races. We do not follow their rules. Maybe that is exactly what we need to win this war. The ship's engines started to hum louder as they prepared to jump to hyperspace. Jake returned to his bridge and sat. In his captain's chair, through the window, he could see the stars start to stretch into lines. As they accelerated faster than light dot, in a few hours, they would reach New Centauri. There, they would join the largest space battle in history. The fate of billions of people would depend on what happened next. Jake hoped that being human would be enough. The Defiance dropped out of hyperspace near New Centauri. Jake looked at the main screen and felt his breath catch in his throat. The space around the planet was filled with ships. Hundreds and hundreds of coalition vessels floated in organized formations. The Altarian ships looked like smooth blue crystals with glowing engines. The Zephyrian vessels were made of clear material that sparkled like diamonds. The Corvin ships were dark and sleek, built for speed and stealth. All of them were much larger than the human ship. Take us to our assigned position, Jake told his pilot, Ben Phillips. Ben was a young man with blonde hair who could fly anything with engines. He had steady hands and never got nervous during dangerous situations. As the Defiance moved through the fleet, Jake could see the alien ships scanning them. He knew what they were thinking. The human ship was small and looked simple compared to their advanced vessels. Many alien commanders probably wondered why humans were even allowed in the battle. Admiral Park's voice came over the communication system. She was on her flagship, a massive Altarian battleship called the Unity. All ships prepare for battle. Long-range sensors show the Vorthik fleet approaching fast. They will be here in 2 hours. Jake called his crew to battle stations. Throughout the ship, people ran to their positions. Ryan went to the engine room to make sure the fusion drives were ready. Amy checked all the weapons systems twice. Kevin started the AI and began scanning for enemy signals. The waiting was the hardest part. Jake walked around his bridge, watching his crew work. They were all focused and ready, but he could see the worry in their eyes. None of them had ever fought the Vorthik before. They had only heard stories about ships that could heal themselves and adapt to any attack. Suddenly, the space in front of the fleet began to ripple like water. Dark shapes started to appear out of hyperspace. At first, there were just a few, then dozens, then hundreds. The Vorthik fleet was arriving. Jake stared at the enemy ships on his screen. They looked like nothing he had ever seen before. The vessels were not built like normal ships. Instead, they looked alive. Their hulls moved and pulsed like breathing. Some had long tentacles that waved in space. Others had mouths full of sharp teeth. My God, Amy whispered. There are so many of them. Kevin counted the enemy ships as they appeared. 2,137 vessels, he reported. They outnumber us more than 2 to 1. The largest Vorthik ship was the size of a small moon. It had a face like a giant, squid with glowing red eyes. Smaller ships flew around it like insects around a light. Jake could see that some of the bioships were already starting to change shape as they prepared for battle. Admiral Park's voice came over the communication system again. All ships maintain formation. Do not engage until ordered. We fight together, or we die together. The Vorthic fleet moved closer. Their ships did not fly in straight lines like normal vessels. Instead, they swam through space like fish in water. Some of them made high-pitched sounds that could be heard even through the vacuum of space. Jake opened a channel to his entire crew. This is your captain speaking. I know you are all scared. I am scared too, but we are here to protect innocent people. Every person on New Centauri is depending on us. We will not let them down. The first shots came from the Vorthic fleet. Streams of green acid flew through space toward the coalition ships. The Altarian vessels raised their energy shields, but the acid ate through them like they were made of paper. Several ships exploded in bright flashes of light. All ships return fire. Admiral Park ordered. The coalition fleet opened up with everything they had. Laser beams, plasma cannons, and missile swarms flew toward the enemy. Some of the weapons hit their targets and damaged the bioships. But Jake watched in horror as the damaged vessels began to heal themselves. The holes in their hulls closed up. Broken parts grew back like new. They are adapting to our weapons, Kevin reported. Each time we hit them, they become more resistant to that type of damage. The battle quickly turned into a nightmare. Vorthic ships moved in ways that normal vessels could not. They twisted and turned, avoiding most of the coalition attacks. When they did get hit, they just healed and kept fighting. Jake watched as 3 Altarian ships were destroyed by a group of Vorthic hunters. The bioships had long necks like snakes and could spit acid that melted through any armor. They moved fast and worked together like a pack of wolves. Captain, Amy said, request permission to engage the enemy. Jake looked at his tactical display. The Defiance was in the rear of the formation with the other smaller ships. They were supposed to stay back and provide support. But Jake could see that the Coalition's careful battle plan was falling apart. Coalition Command, this is Captain Morrison, Jake said into his communicator. Request permission to break formation and engage enemy hunters. Negative, Defiance. Came the reply from an Altarian commander. Maintain position. Human tactics are too unpredictable for coordinated battle. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. The aliens still did not trust humans, even when they were losing the battle. He watched as more coalition ships exploded under Vorthic attacks. The careful formations were breaking down as ships tried to escape. The acid attacks then Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. A group of 12 Vorthic hunters had broken through the main battle line. They were heading straight for the medical ships in the rear. Those vessels had no weapons and were full of wounded soldiers from previous battles. Captain, Ben said from the pilot station, those hunters are going after the hospital ships. Jake made a decision that would change everything. All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers. We are going to save those medical ships. But sir, Amy said, we do not have permission to break formation. Jake looked at his crew. Sometimes you have to do what is right, not what you are ordered to do. Ryan, give me everything the engines have got. Amy, target those hunters. Ben, plot a course that will put us between them and the medical ships. The Defiance suddenly shot forward, breaking away from the coalition formation. Jake's ship was much faster than the alien vessels, and it caught everyone by surprise. The human ship raced toward the approaching hunters at a speed that should have been impossible. Those humans have lost their minds, Jake heard an alien commander say over the communication channel. But Jake had a plan. He had been thinking about the problem differently than the other commanders. Instead of trying to fight the Vorthic like a normal enemy, he was going to use their own biology against them. Ben, take us close to the star. Jake ordered. Sir? Ben looked confused. That will put us in extreme danger. Trust me, Jake said. I have an idea. The Defiance dove toward New Centauri's sun at a speed that made the hull shake. Jake gripped his chair as the ship's gravity systems struggled to keep everyone in place. The 12 Vorthic hunters were still chasing the medical ships, but now they had noticed the human vessel racing toward the star. Captain, the hull temperature is rising fast, Ryan reported from the engine room. If we get much closer to the sun, the ship will melt. Jake watched the tactical display carefully. The hunters were changing course to follow them, just as he had hoped. The bioships could sense that the Defiance was trying to escape, and their predator instincts made them give chase. Ben, begin the slingshot maneuver, Jake ordered. Use the star's gravity to accelerate us even faster. Ben's fingers flew over. The controls. The ship curved around the star in a tight arc, using the massive gravitational pull to gain incredible speed. The Defiance shot out from behind the sun like a bullet fired from a gun. The Vorthic hunters were caught completely off guard. They had been expecting the human ship to try to run away. Instead, the Defiance came racing back at them, faster than any ship they had ever seen. The bioships tried to scatter, but they were too slow. Amy, fire everything we have, Jake commanded. Human ship's weapons opened up at point-blank range. Laser cannons, plasma bolts, and kinetic missiles all hit the surprised hunters at the same time. The bioships had not had time to adapt to human weapons yet. 6 of them exploded instantly. The other 6 were badly damaged and spinning out of control. Direct hit, Amy shouted with excitement. We got them all. The bridge crew cheered, but Jake stayed focused. Do not celebrate yet. Look at your sensors. Kevin checked his instruments, and his face went pale. The damaged hunters are healing themselves, and they are sending out some kind of signal. Jake knew what that meant. The wounded bioships were sharing information about human weapons with the rest of the Vorthic fleet. Soon, all the enemy ships would be resistant to their attacks. But something else was happening too. Jake's communicator was lighting up with messages from coalition ships. Alien commanders who had ignored humans before were now asking questions. Defiance, this is Captain Zarthik of the Corvin ship Night Stalker, came a deep, growling voice. How did you achieve such velocity without damaging your vessel? Human ship, this is Commander Crystalsong of the Zephyrian vessel Harmony, said a musical voice that sounded like ringing bells. Your tactical approach was most unusual. Can you explain your reasoning? Jake realized that the aliens had never seen anything like what the Defiance had just done. Their military training taught them to follow careful plans and establish tactics. They would never have thought to use a star as a slingshot or to risk their ship to save others. All coalition vessels, this is Captain Morrison, Jake said, over the general communication channel. The Vorthic adapt to our weapons, but they cannot adapt to unpredictable tactics. We need to stop fighting like they expect us to fight. Admiral Park's voice cut through the chatter. Captain Morrison, explain yourself quickly. We are losing this battle. Jake looked at his tactical display. The main coalition fleet was still taking heavy losses. The organized battle formations were falling apart as Vorthic bioships swarmed through their lines. Traditional space combat was not working against an enemy that could heal and adapt. Admiral, the Vorthic are like animals, Jake explained. They follow patterns and instincts. But humans do not follow patterns. We improvise. We take risks. We do things that do not make sense to anyone else. Dr. Melissa Crawford, the ship's science officer, had been listening to the conversation. She was a small woman with curly brown hair who studied alien biology. Captain, I think you are right. I have been analyzing the bioship behavior. They adapt to threats they understand, but they get confused by random actions. Kevin nodded from his station. The ship's AI has been watching the battle. Every time we do something unexpected, the Vorthic response time slows down. Their adaptation. Systems cannot keep up with chaos. Jake made a decision that would change the course of the war. All ships, this is the Defiance. Any vessel willing to try new tactics, follow my lead. We are going to show these creatures what human creativity can do. To Jake's surprise, several alien ships responded. Captain Zarthic's Night Stalker was the first to break formation. The sleek Corvan vessel moved to join the Defiance. Then Commander Crystal Song's Harmony followed, its crystal hull sparkling in the starlight. "This is madness," came a voice from one of the Altarian commanders. "You cannot win a battle with random actions." But Jake was already moving. "Ben, take us into the middle of that group of bioships. Amy, fire at random targets. Do not worry about hitting them all. Just keep them confused." The small group of ships followed the Defiance into the enemy formation. Instead of fighting, in careful lines, they scattered in all directions. The human ship would suddenly turn left, then right, then dive down and loop back up. The other ships copied these wild maneuvers. The Vorthic bioships tried to adapt, but they could not predict what the Coalition vessels would do next. Their healing systems worked fine, but their coordination fell apart. Vessel ships began firing at each other by mistake. Some crashed into asteroids while trying to follow the erratic human movements. Tony Martinez, the ship's communications officer, was coordinating with the other vessels. He was a quick-thinking man who could talk to multiple ships at once. "Captain Zarthic, try spinning your ship while you fire. Commander Crystal Song, use your ship's crystal arrays to create light patterns that confuse their sensors." The new tactics were working. The small group of ships led by the Defiance was causing chaos in the Vorthic formation. But Jake knew they needed to do more. The main enemy fleet was still too large. "Kevin, can your eye learn to predict what the bioships will do?" Jake asked. Kevin was typing fast at his computer station. "The AI is trying, but the Vorthic behavior is very complex. Wait. I think I found something. The bioships send signals to each other when they adapt. If we could jam those signals." "Do it," Jake ordered. The Defiance began broadcasting interference on the frequencies the bioships used to communicate. Suddenly, the enemy vessels could not share information about Coalition tactics. Each bioship had to figure out how to adapt. On its own, Dr. Crawford made another discovery. "Captain, the bioships seem to have a weakness. When they are healing from damage, they cannot move as fast. If we time our attacks right, Jake smiled. His crew was thinking like humans now, finding creative solutions that no alien would have considered. "Amy, wait until the bioships start healing, then hit them again before they finish." The battle was starting to turn. More Coalition ships were joining Jake's group, abandoning their formal tactics for human-style improvisation. The Vorthic fleet was getting confused and disorganized, but Jake knew the real test was still coming. The enemy's massive command ship had not joined the fight yet. It was waiting and watching, learning from the battle. When it finally moved, it would bring weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "All ships, prepare for the next phase," Jake announced. "The real fight is about to begin." The massive Vorthic command ship finally began to move. It was as large as a small moon, with tentacles that stretched for miles in every direction. Jake watched in horror as the bioconstruct opened what looked like a giant mouth filled with rows of glowing teeth. "Captain, I am reading massive energy buildup from that thing," Kevin reported. "It is charging some kind of weapon." Suddenly, a wave of invisible energy swept through space. Every Coalition ship that the wave touched went dark. Their engines stopped working, their weapons powered down. Even their life support systems began to fail. What just happened? Amy asked, checking her weapons console. Kevin's face was pale as he looked at his instruments. It is some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon, but much more powerful than anything we have ever seen. It disrupts all electronic systems. Jake looked around his bridge. The lights were dimmer now, and several control panels were flickering. But the Defiance was still working, unlike most of the other Coalition ships. Why are we not completely disabled? Ryan's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, our fusion drive is creating some kind of interference field. It is protecting us from the worst of the pulse. Jake looked at his tactical display. Out of 800 Coalition ships, only about 50 were still functioning. The rest were floating helplessly in space. The Vorthic's smaller ships were already moving in to finish them off. All functioning ships, this is Captain Morrison. Jake said over the communication system. We need to regroup immediately. That command ship will fire again soon. Only a few ships responded. Most of the alien vessels that were still working had older technology that was naturally resistant to the pulse weapon. But they were no match for the entire Vorthic fleet. Admiral Park's voice came through the static. Her flagship was one of the disabled vessels. Captain Morrison, you have command of what is left of the fleet. Do whatever you can. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Billions of people on New Centauri were depending on him. The entire war might be decided by what he did in the next few hours. Kevin, how long until that command ship can fire again? Jake asked. Kevin was working frantically at his computer. Based on the energy readings, I estimate about 2 hours. But Captain, even if we could destroy it, the rest of their fleet still outnumbers us 40-1. Jake looked at his small group of functioning ships. There were 12 Altarian vessels, 8 Zephyrian ships, 15 Corvan fighters, and about a dozen others from smaller species, plus the Defiance. It was not nearly enough to win a normal battle. But Jake was not planning a normal battle. Dr. Crawford, you said the bioships follow organic patterns. What happens when an organism gets confused or panicked? The science officer thought for a moment. They usually try to return to safety. Most creatures have a survival instinct that overrides other behaviors when they are threatened. And where would these bioships feel safest? Near their command ship, Dr. Crawford realized. They would try to get close to the largest member of their group. Jake was starting to form a plan. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might be their only chance. Kevin, could we overload our fusion drives to create a bigger explosion? Kevin looked worried. Theoretically, yes. But it would destroy the ship and everyone on it. Not if we did it right, Jake said. Ryan, get up here. I need to talk to both of you. Ryan came to the bridge quickly. He was sweaty from working in the hot engine room, but his eyes were alert. What do you need, Captain? Jake explained his idea. We use our ship as a weapon. Get close to that command ship, can overload the fusion drives. But instead of destroying ourselves, we eject the drive core at the last second and let it explode against their hull. Kevin pushed his glasses up his nose. The timing would have to be perfect, and we would need to get very close to that thing. Ryan nodded slowly. It could work, but we would need a way to distract them while we make our approach. Jake looked at his small fleet on the tactical display. I have an idea for that too. Dr. Crawford, could we create some kind of computer virus that would affect bioships? Maybe, she said. Their systems are part organic, part machine. If we could design something that attacked both. Do it, Jake ordered. Kevin, help her. We need something that will confuse their adaptation systems. While his science team worked on the virus, Jake coordinated with the other ship captains. Captain Zarthik was eager to help with the dangerous mission. Commander Crystal Song offered to use her ship's crystal arrays to create a diversion. "This plan is insane," said Captain Veltar of an Altarian cruiser. "We should retreat and try to evacuate the planet." "There is nowhere to retreat to," Jake replied. "If New Centauri falls, the war is over. This is our only chance." An hour later, Dr. Crawford and Kevin had finished their work. "We have created a virus that should confuse the bioship's adaptation systems," Dr. Crawford reported. "But we need to deliver it directly to the command ship's neural center." Jake looked at his crew. They all knew what he was about to ask. Someone would have to fly a small shuttle into the most dangerous place in the galaxy. "I will do it," said Rachel Kim, the ship's pilot. She was a young woman with black hair and steady hands. "I know these shuttles better than anyone." "Rachel, this is a suicide mission," Jake said gently. She smiled. "Maybe, but if it saves billions of people, it is worth it." Jake felt proud and sad at the same time. This was what made humans special. They were willing to sacrifice everything for others, even people they had never met. The plan was set. Rachel would take a modified shuttle and deliver the virus to the command ship. While the bioconstruct was confused, the Defiance would make its attack run. The other ships would create as much chaos as possible to cover their approach. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake announced. "In 10 minutes, we are going to attempt something that has never been tried before. We are going to use our humanity as a weapon." Rachel launched her shuttle and began the dangerous flight toward the command ship. The other coalition vessels started their attack runs, firing at random targets and moving in unpredictable patterns. The Vorthic's smaller ships tried to respond, but they were still confused by the human tactics. Jake watched Rachel's shuttle on his screen as it dodged through the enemy fleet. Vorthic bioships fired at the small vessel, but Rachel's flying skills kept her alive. She twisted and turned through the deadly maze of tentacles and teeth. "She is almost there," Kevin reported. On the screen, Jake could see Rachel's shuttle approaching the command ship's neural center. It was a glowing area near what looked like the creature's brain. Suddenly, the shuttle disappeared in a flash of light. "Rachel," Jake whispered, but her sacrifice was not in vain. The command ship began to shake and writhe as the virus attacked its systems. The massive bioconstruct's coordination with the smaller ships was breaking down. "Now," Jake shouted, "take us in." The Defiance shot forward at maximum speed, heading straight for the confused command ship. This was their one chance to end the war. The Defiance raced toward the massive Vorthic command ship at incredible speed. Jake could see the bioconstruct writhing in pain as Rachel's virus attacked its systems. The creature's tentacles were moving wildly, and its glowing eyes flickered like broken lights. "Ryan, how long until the fusion core is ready?" Jake asked over the intercom. 2 more minutes, Captain," Ryan replied from the engine room. "But we need to get closer, much closer." Jake watched the distance counter on his screen. They were still too far away for the plan to work. The command ship was huge, but they needed to hit exactly the right spot to cause maximum damage. "Ben, take us right up to that thing's mouth," Jake ordered. Ben's hands were steady on the controls, but Jake could see sweat on his forehead. "Captain, if we get that close, we might not be able to get away in time." "Trust me," Jake said. "We will make it." The Defiance flew between the command ship's massive tentacles. Each one was bigger than their entire vessel. Jake could see smaller bioships trying to protect their leader, but they were moving slowly and clumsily. The virus was affecting the whole Vorthic fleet. Amy was firing the ship's weapons at any bioship that got too close. "Captain, we have 3 hunters coming in from the left side." Jake looked at his tactical display. The 3 smaller ships were trying to intercept them, but they were moving in straight lines instead of their usual unpredictable patterns. They are fighting the virus. Their coordination is breaking down. Keep firing, Amy. Kevin was monitoring the virus's progress from his station. Captain, the command ship's systems are failing, but the effect will not last much longer. Their adaptation systems are starting to fight back. Jake knew they were running out of time. Ryan, forget about the safety protocols. Overload that fusion core as much as you can. Already doing it. Captain, Ryan's voice came back. This is going to be the biggest explosion anyone has ever seen. The Defiance was now so close to the command ship that Jake could see details on its biomechanical hull. There were thousands of smaller creatures crawling across its surface like insects. Some of them looked like they were trying to repair damage from the virus. 30 seconds until core ejection, Ryan announced. Jake opened a channel to his entire crew. All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers. We are about to do something that no one has ever tried before. Hold on tight. The ship flew directly into the command ship's mouth. Jake could see rows of teeth as big as buildings passing by the windows. The bioconstruct was trying to close its mouth and crush them, but the virus was making its reactions. Slow. Fusion core ready for ejection, Ryan reported. Do it. Jake shouted. The Defiance shot the overloaded fusion core directly into the command ship's throat. At the same time, Ben pulled the ship into the tightest turn he had ever attempted. The Defiance spun around and raced back toward the creature's mouth. Behind them, the fusion core was building up energy. Jake could see it on his rear sensors, glowing brighter and brighter. They had maybe 10 seconds to get clear. Come on, Jake whispered, willing his ship to go faster. The explosion came just as they cleared the command ship's teeth. The overloaded fusion core released more energy than a small star. The blast tore through the bioconstruct's internal systems, causing a chain reaction that spread throughout its massive body. The command ship began to break apart. Huge chunks of biomechanical material flew in all directions. The creature's death scream could be heard across space, a sound so loud it shook every ship in the battle. We did it, Amy shouted, but Jake was not celebrating yet. He was watching his tactical display as something amazing happened. The explosion had created energy waves that were spreading through the Vorthic fleet. The bioships, which were connected to their command ship, were all being affected. Kevin, what is happening to them? Jake asked. Kevin was studying his instruments with excitement. Captain, the energy from our explosion is interfering with their biological systems. They cannot adapt to it because it is not a weapon they have ever seen before. Throughout the Vorthic fleet, bioships were shutting down or moving erratically. Some were crashing into each other. Others were trying to flee, but could not coordinate. Their escape. All coalition ships, this is Captain Morrison, Jake announced. The enemy fleet is in chaos. All vessels that can still fight begin immediate attack runs. Use the tactics we have been practicing. Stay unpredictable. The disabled coalition ships were starting to come back online as the command ships pulse. Weapon failed. Admiral Park's voice came through clearly for the first time in hours. All ships follow Captain Morrison's lead, she ordered. Use human tactics. Fight like they do. What happened next was the most unusual space battle in galactic history. Instead of organized formations and careful strategies, the coalition fleet attacked in complete chaos. Ships would suddenly change direction, fire at random targets, or perform impossible maneuvers. The Altarian vessels, which had always fought in perfect coordination, began splitting up and attacking individually. The Zephyrian ships used their crystal arrays to create confusing light patterns. The Corvan fighters moved like wild animals, striking fast and disappearing. Captain Zarthik's voice came over the communication system. This human way of fighting is very strange, but it works. Commander Crystal Song's musical voice added, "We have learned much from the humans today. Chaos can be more powerful than order." The Vorthic fleet was falling apart. Without their command ship to coordinate them, the bioships could not work together. They had been designed to follow the lead of their massive leader, and now they were lost and confused. Jake watched as hundreds of enemy vessels tried to retreat, but they kept running into each other or getting lost. Their adaptation systems, which had made them so dangerous before, were now working against them. Each bioship was trying to adapt to different threats at the same time, and their biology could not handle the confusion. "Tony, coordinate with all coalition ships," Jake ordered his communications officer. "Tell them to keep up the pressure. Do not let the enemy regroup." The battle was turning into a complete victory for the coalition. Ship after ship of Vorthic biovessels was destroyed or disabled. Some tried to surrender, but they could not communicate properly without their command ship. Dr. Crawford was monitoring the enemy fleet from her science station. "Captain, the remaining bioships are starting to shut down. Without the command ship's signals, they cannot maintain their biological functions." Jake felt a mix of relief and sadness. The war was ending, but so many people had died to reach this point. He thought about Rachel Kim, who had sacrificed herself to deliver the virus. Her bravery had made victory possible. "All ships, cease fire," Admiral Park ordered as the last Vorthic vessels stopped moving. "The enemy fleet has been defeated." Aye. Cheer went up from every coalition ship. After 3 years of losing battles, they had finally won. And they had done it by learning to fight like humans. Jake sat back in his captain's chair and looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted, but happy. Ryan had come up from the engine room, his face covered in grease, but smiling widely. Amy was grinning as she powered down the weapon systems. Kevin was already analyzing the battle data, probably wondering how they had pulled off such an impossible victory. "Captain," Ben said from the pilot station, "we are receiving a message from New Centauri. The planet wants to thank us." Jake nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The image showed the capital city of New Centauri, with beings from dozens of different species celebrating in the streets. Altarians, Zephyrians, Corvans, and many others were dancing and cheering together. For the first time in years, they were not afraid. Admiral Park appeared on another part of the screen. "Captain Morrison, I owe you an apology. When this war started, many of us thought humans were too primitive to help. We were wrong. You have taught us that sometimes the best solution is not the most logical one." Jake smiled. "Admiral, we could not have won without the other species. The Altarians gave us strong ships. The Zephyrians provided advanced sensors. The Corvans taught us about speed and stealth. We all worked together." "Yes," Admiral Park agreed. "But you showed us how to think differently, how to be unpredictable, how to take risks for the right reasons." Over the next few days, as the Coalition fleet returned to New Centauri, Jake learned more about how the battle would change everything. The alien species were already studying human tactics and trying to understand human creativity. Military academies across the galaxy would start teaching courses on improvisation and lateral thinking. But more importantly, humans were no longer seen as the primitive newcomers to galactic civilization. They were now respected as equals, with their own unique strengths to contribute. Jake stood in his quarters, looking out at the stars. The Defiance was being repaired and upgraded, and soon they would be ready for new missions. The war was over, but there would always be new challenges in the galaxy. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Ryan, Amy, and Kevin entered together. They all looked serious. "Captain," Amy said, "we have been talking. The other species want to learn from us, but we have learned from them too. Maybe that is what the galaxy really needs. Kevin nodded. We have been fighting as separate species for thousands of years. But when we work together today, combining human